Good morning. Welcome here live from Eindhoven for another breakfast live stream. Today we want to talk about building security and artificial intelligence and what the two have to do with one another. But before we go into that, let's first of all look at the topics of today, and I'm not going to do it alone today because I have two great colleagues here on stage that are going to help me talk about building security. On my left-hand side, Dorit, maybe you can say something about yourself.
Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Dorit Gutelman. I am Regional Marketing Manager for EMEA Video Solutions.
And Niels.
Yes, I'm Niels. I'm a product manager responsible for all our software components on the cameras, firmware, and artificial intelligence.
Thank you both for being here, because I don't know what to do without you. So there are a couple of points that we are going to address today about building security, but before that, as you know, there are some good to knows. Questions, you see the screen in front of you, you have a chat box, you can drop your questions in the chat box, or you scan the QR code, and then you can join via the mobile phone. The questions will be answered during the live session, but also at the end. And in the unlikely event it happens, if your live stream stops, please refresh your browser. That should solve the problem. So let's have a look at today's agenda. And first of all, we are going to look at what are the main requirements that we see in building security. And then we dive into use cases, because the proof of the pudding is in eating, so we really want to show with the colleagues here on stage different use cases, and we literally take it today from the inside to the outside. So we start with the building interior, and then we slowly but gradually go to its surroundings, and we will be ending up at the perimeter. So first of all, let's have a look at the different requirements. But before we do that, we go into some action here. So we want to ask you, if you look at the topic, or if you think about the topic building security, what are your main requirements when you are realizing such a project for one of your customers? And on the screen, you should now already see a couple of options, and you can choose a couple of them. And we will then, once you are getting in the votes, we will look at the results and pick it up from there. So now it's up to you. Please give us your votes. It's also nice that the first results come in, and false alerts is interesting. I think Niels said that's something that we will definitely address today.
Definitely, yeah, with all the AI technology coming into the cameras.
I'm still excited that the votes are coming in, so keep on voting. No, but it is indeed clear that the false alerts, and of course also not only false alerts, but also undetected events, because you also want to detect relevant events. That's clearly one of the main requirements. And next to that, data security, privacy protection. And also that is something that we will talk about today. And of course, forensics and the monitoring of sensitive areas. So yeah, it feels maybe a little bit, oh, they already thought about it up front, and we did thought about it up front, but these are also indeed the use cases that we are going to dive into today. So let's have a look at the main requirements that we are addressing. So if we talk about building security, we talk about, of course, elevating safety and security in a total sense, but also increasing efficiency and simplicity. And the efficiency and simplicity actually comes from the fact that if you can minimize the false alerts, you don't need to spend time on things that are irrelevant. And of course, if you detect the ones that are relevant for you, that is where you want to focus on. So that's the efficiency part. And also you can do a lot on the calibration side of analytics, and that's also something that we talk about later today. And then last but not least, and it was already pointed out in the poll results, the trust. Trust is a very important thing. Data security on the one hand side, so that no one can, unauthorized can access data, but also how can we keep privacy of people safe, and that's also something that we talk about today. So yeah, enough talking on my side. Dorit, you're back on stage because we had a small battery problem.
Yeah,
and that happens when you're live, so apologies for that. But Dorit, you're back. Thanks for that, because otherwise, you know, I'm sweating already here, because now the real stuff comes. Tell us what we need if we start with the interior of the building and security.
So we've seen quite a lot of challenges and interest when coming to deal with the building's interior and their security. And the good news is that we're equipping our customers with basically one solution that fits all.
One fits all.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah. Our FlexiDome 5100 dome camera, 5100i, which is very important, dome camera, is equipped with our brand new IVA Pro, capable of giving insights, of detecting events of interest, and in a very accurate and efficient way based on AI. This family of cameras is equipped with a great imaging technology, so very high quality with starlight, with IR up to 45 meters. It has image stabilization, and it goes up to 4K Ultra HD in resolution. It is super easy to install. It has this three-step installation concept, which makes it really easy, and also with wireless commissioning. We'll be looking into that a bit further down the road. And as you mentioned, as all of our cameras, it adheres to the same standard of security and cyber resilience that our customers are accustomed to already. So super flexible and efficient solution, all in one.
All in one. So basically, that is also what you're saying here. So we talk about IVA Pro, and I believe there is something special to say about IVA Pro.
IVA Pro.
It's a special package, and it also has a special name, I believe.
Correct. What we use is the buildings. IVA Pro Buildings is our solution that is intended basically for building security, whether it's inside the building or in the surroundings of the buildings or the parking lots. It is application specific, and this is what makes our IVA Pro unique. It's been trained on specific applications, and it is really suited for all the needs that we will see today, but also for many others that we will not have the time to even go through, right?
So that's important for you guys watching the live stream, is that what Dorrit already says is we have what we call application-specific AI, and that's something new. That's also why we're excited to talk about a topic like building security, because now we have AI that is trained, as also Dorrit says, for these specific applications. So that's the reason, if you're looking for something that is suited for building security, look at IVA Pro Buildings. Also later on we will talk about Parameter. You can probably already guess how that will be called, but that's for later. So let's go into some use cases, because I think we already said a proof of the pudding is in eating, so let's dive into that.
Yeah, let's see.
The interior.
Indeed, let's see what happens on the inside. So different buildings have different needs. We use them sometimes for data centers, for logistics centers, for office buildings, and each of them naturally would have something in common with the others, but also some unique needs. And this is why I said this is a flexible solution, but also very easy to implement. So if we take a look at really some of the most common use cases, so securing restricted zones, this is one of the main objectives of having a security system in a building, whether it's battery rooms, whether it's server rooms. We have always restricted zones that we want to restrict, maybe based on time of day, maybe based on how many people are allowed to be there, or even we want to get alarmed whenever somebody is coming near to a restricted area. That is something that we can easily achieve out of the box with IVA Pro Buildings based on our FlexiDome 5100.
And I believe you also want to show something or not?
I will.
Yeah. Should we already watch it? Or?
Yeah, we could now. Or.
So let's see, because we said it. So now you can also still talk about what's happening actually here.
So basically, we see a solution of loitering whenever there's a prolonged stay, somebody spending too much time in an area that they're allowed to pass by, but if they stay there, let's say for 5 seconds and up, that's already indicative of something and you want to get alarmed about, we can do that. We can even, as you can see there, or could see there, we could have alarms whenever an object is left on site or whenever an object is removed. Let's say a UPS is removed or something like that. That could even be indicative of sabotage attempt sometime. So again, whatever your need is, we can adapt the camera, and it's super flexible with its algorithms to perform those tasks. The second topic.
Because the example that you just showed, that's then actually also a real life example because it is recorded in a data center, when I'm not mistaken, and it's indeed the power supply room, which of course is, I think, crucial, especially for a data center, because no power, okay.
Correct.
The rest we can automatically already fill. And then, but there is something else. So that is indeed detecting if people are loitering, if people leave behind objects, if they remove an object, because that can of course be as dangerous. But there's something else.
Yeah.
Sensitive areas.
Indeed. So sometimes in the building we would have a sensitive area. More and more also we hear about customers who are focused on safeguarding the privacy of the people inside the building, whether it's employees, visitors, or other. And we have some good news on that as well. We are.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're already smiling, so I need to show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
there
why
it is.
don't
Yes.
you? So first of all, we can mask spaces, whether it's the rack mount where we don't want the operator to see exactly what is installed. So we can mask that but still detect in a very good way. We can also, starting from our next month, let's say, we are also able to mask the entire frame and detect behind it, or mask areas in the frame and create a very accurate counting, detection, alarming, while completely safeguarding the privacy of the people there.
But to go, and let's see if that works, and if it doesn't work, we speak about it. But hold on, so this one, so for my understanding, so what you're doing here is that you are hiding away potential sensitive information. So if I talk about a data center, then you don't want to show what is in the racks, etc., maybe for which customers you are working, but you still want to keep these areas secure so that you can still keep an eye on persons entering and exiting.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
And you can attribute that to specific areas in the building, but also you can in generally in the lobby, in the entrance, for instance, count people, but blur them completely and have nothing indicative of their identity.
Understood. Yeah. But there is something else.
There is something else. So one of the basic usages for cameras in a building is to enable a remote operator to log in, to view from remote what's going on in case, let's say, a fire detector or a humidity detector alarms and so on. So you can check what's going on site and then verify or tag it as a false alarm. Of course, this has to do with the imaging technology of our Flexidome 5100i, which is really high quality, as I said. But on top of that, we are also adding with audio analytics, which we will learn about a bit more later on. But I will mention it right now already because we can detect already detectors, T3 and T4 detectors. So fire detectors and carbon monoxide detectors that are alarming. Our cameras are equipped with the capability to detect those sounds and create a second alarm going into the video system.
So basically what you're saying, on the one hand side, it's a visual aspect. So once a detector is triggered, you are then looking at the images via your cameras. But the other thing you are telling me is that you can also see with sound.
Indeed.
Okay, so then if you take the panoramic, because there is a purpose then that is mentioned on this slide, I see. So the panoramic is having audio analytics, and that then detects the audio signature of these detectors.
Correct. The panoramic camera is our first one equipped with the capability to see with sound and indeed detect those sounds and create a bespoke alarm for them.
Okay, and I already see Niels starting to smile because I think, Niels, you want to go further on that sound detection and even go beyond that. So stay tuned. We will get there.
We will go there.
So let's have a look.
That was the, So that was the very short clip of the capability to really blur the image, but still get really accurate detection with classification, with location, with all the attributes that we need on object detection behind that mask still keeping privacy intact.
Yeah, so you saw my surprise already, so I thought, okay, what's happening here? So I was also a little bit confused, but again, it's live television, so my apologies for that, but maybe go one back if I can. So this one we already saw. So here you're seeing, so what we are doing actually is, this is exactly what you just were talking about.
Yeah.
It's making it more private, so you still see what is happening in the scene, but you can't recognize any person.
Correct. It adheres with GDPR regulations and with specific regulations for companies and countries that enforce that.
Okay, I think now this one we have already seen enough.
Several times.
As I said at the beginning, we start on the inside and then we slowly but gradually go to the outside of buildings. And one of the things that are literally a little bit on the border of the two is entry and exit points. And there is quite some things to say about that. So, Dorrit?
Yeah. So, of course, the entry and exit points are one of the points that we'd like to secure. First of all, we want to manage how many people are coming in, whether they're allowed to come in, how many people I have in the building, where are they going, and so on. And with IVA Pro buildings, based on our FlexiDome, we can do exactly that with really high accuracy and very insightful data coming out of the camera. We can not only handle doors and entryways, but also really precisely determine how many people are filling an area. So if you have like a lion cage or an area where only two people...
That's the first thing you think of, a lion cage, okay. Yeah. An interesting example, but okay, yeah.
Not an actual lion cage, right? But the concept of... So that would be, we are able to alarm whenever more than 2 people, more than 5 people are at the same area, or on the other hand, whenever there's only one person at a remote location or in a, alone in a room, maybe we would also like to take care of that. So that's another aspect of our ability to count. So not only when crossing a line or virtual line while going through a door, but also just assessing or actually counting the occupancy of a space or a room and gaining, again, the relevant insight out of that.
Yeah, because it can basically indicate that maybe too many people are gathering, let's say in a short period of time, so that could indicate that something is happening or people are maybe in an emergency situation or whatsoever.
Correct, but it can also, if you're just in a store, it could also indicate that you need to send somebody else and open another cache, right?
Time.
So that is my point about flexibility. So the same capability can really be used to entertain different interests and needs. Yeah.
And I also see one of the first questions coming in, and it's actually quite interesting because, you know how it is if you are preparing a live stream as today. We have to make choices because we can talk for hours, but we don't want to keep you for hours, so we have to make choices. And exactly what is now being asked is if we can also give examples where we show how our analytics works in leaving objects behind or removing an object. Those were the ones we skipped.
Yeah, we had to skip some. Again, the number of rules or scenarios we can entertain with our IVA Pro is really substantial. So, we had to cherry pick some of the stuff that we used to talk about, let's say, less. We have, I think, even online, we have some good examples of left and removed objects scenarios.
What we will do, because I said we are going to answer questions also during the session, and unfortunately in this case I can't show you the video clip yet because that's something we cut down. But what we are going to do in the follow-up email, so which you are going to receive after this live stream, let's put these examples in, and I think we also have tackled that. And Niels, when we are talking about questions, I see a question that I think is very suited for you. What is the minimum resolution of the object in the scene to be detected?
That very much depends on the detection mode you have. So whether you're talking about a perimeter scenario or a building scenario. So typically it's 16 by 16 pixels you have as a minimum pixel requirement, but it also very much depends on the mode. So we have also a tech node and a data sheet on the specific analytics packages. Yeah, you really have to look for each application, since depending on what you want to detect, how big the object is, and so on, you have a different requirement.
So besides the 2 missing video clips, we can also add this to also our follow-up emails, so you get more detail on that. That's also an interesting one. AI, artificial intelligence, or in this case also deep learning, what we're talking about in the case of building IVA Pro buildings. We are making use of data sets, and actually what they are asking here is how big the data sets are that we are using. Interesting question, but I think that's also something for you to answer.
Yeah, so for the deep learning applications, it's obviously all about the data set size. So you cannot train with 10 or 20 pictures or videos. So we're talking about millions of images that are being used to train that kind of network. We also specifically have, because you can imagine, you really also need to have like data from the field, from the specific views, from a surveillance view. We also have very specific custom data, which we gathered. We are also making use of our allies with our automotive department, since we also have a very good data collection pipeline over there. So it's in the millions of images.
But I think what you just said, that's crucial. It is real live data, so from the field. It's because there are data sets out there that of course, let's say, mimic a situation, but of course there is nothing as the real deal. So I think that's an important point.
Absolutely.
Sorry for the interruption, but we promised the audience that we would take some questions. So let's go back to the entry and exit points. We were stuck a little bit on, let's say, people gathering. So
so we mentioned entryways, and of course we need to manage the legitimate entryways, but also take care that nobody is using, let's say, emergency doors or other not legitimate, or the ones that we do not want to be used. So we can detect that as well. If a person is coming in through an emergency door, which was left by mistake open, then we can certainly detect that event and make sure it doesn't happen again. Again, an example of what can we do to really secure the entry into the building.
And talking to, let's say, entry into a building, so entering a building, you want to show something about counting.
Yeah. So with our new IVA Pro.
I believe I see a comparison here.
Yes. What we can see on the left is our essential video analytics, so the previous algorithms that we used to have. And on the right-hand side, the IVA Pro building. Again, no calibration is needed for that, so really out-of-the-box counting, AI-based, so super accurate, able to detect objects even if they are 50% occluded. So we only need to see 50% of an object in order to properly classify and detect it. We're able to classify a person, a vehicle with IVA Pro building, and again, gain real-time alarms, but also on-the-fly insights that could be super useful, really depending on the line of business of what is taking place inside the building.
Yeah. Thanks, Dorrit. We stay a little bit at the entry. Niels, I'm already looking at you. Dorrit already addressed it, not a lot, but you said something, and we called it See with Sound, or in other words, Sound See. Bosch has a technology out there which is called Sound See. You can also Google it. You will find some interesting examples. And Niels, I think you want to say a couple of words to that.
Correct. So we as building technologies and as video systems, we earlier launched this year our intelligent audio analytics, which are running on our FlexiDome Panoramic 5100i. And this is giving basically the T3 and T4 alarm, but it's also giving a gunshot detection. And this technology, this is actually based on a Bosch patent. It's called SoundC.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned is we introduced this as Bosch during the Consumer Electronics Show in 2019.
Yeah.
And this actual technology has been deployed on the International Space Station by NASA. And you're now probably wondering, what is it going to do over there? Is it going to detect gunshot? No, it's not, for sure. So it's a device floating around on the International Space Station, and it's picking up the machine noise and detecting at a very early instance if something is going wrong, if there is a machine failure. And as you can imagine, there is no such thing as same-day delivery on the International Space Station, so you need to know it very early if something goes wrong. And that's basically what our technology does on the International Space Station, such that they can make sure that the supply for spare parts is already timed, 6 months earlier, and so on. And we took that very same technology, Bosch patented SoundC, retrained it for gunshot detection and put it into our cameras. And that's what we deliver with our FlexiDome Panoramic. And we also made a short video on that, combining it with our new technology, the visual part of it.
Keep that thought for a split second. So indeed, what we are introducing here, and that's quite revolutionary, it's audio AI next to video AI. So we are going to watch a small video, but before we do that, it's also important to know that violence is unfortunately also increasing. And that also has to do with people entering buildings, but exactly the people that you don't want to enter. And think about banks, think about all kinds of other governmental buildings where there is a high risk, where people are going in and where they are indeed having guns and are having at least different intentions as normal people going to a bank. So that is something that also Niels will be addressing later on, because we have a solution for that. But first of all, let's go for a short commercial break and have a look at how technology from space actually comes to Earth. So here you saw a nice example of the technology that Niels was already addressing. And here you saw an example how it could also indeed make learning environments safer, especially in the US. We have currently quite some discussions there, and unfortunately you see it in the daily news that there is a mass shooting. So yeah, you can imagine that people in charge of that are looking for solutions. And you also saw some small snippets already of our real analytics in action. But Niels, before we go there, because you also wanted to show that today live on stage, so let's say keep our fingers crossed, but we are pretty comfortable there.
Correct.
But before we go there, there are some things you want to stress with regards to our solution.
Correct. So what we really wanted to do is we wanted to give our customers the most comprehensive solution by layering multiple technologies. And the first layer in that is our visual gun detection, which you might already have noticed that Dorit left, so she will be the one demonstrating it.
Probably she will be back, maybe.
Probably. And this is basically the visual part of it. So we've been always talking about the power to predict, being predictive about situations, so already seeing that something is coming before the first shot goes off. So the intention is to really catch somebody while he's walking through the parking lot, going into the building with a gun. So now if such an instance is detected, This alarm from the camera can go to your video management system or through the mobile apps, which are coming with that, for an actual human to take a look at it and to verify and then take already action. However, there might be situations where the first shots are fired outside the field of view of the camera. So in these cases, you don't even have an opportunity to detect your gun. So in this case, you really also need the second layer to have really this comprehensive solution. And the second layer, our gunshot detection, this is based on the SoundC technology. And this is designed to pick up gunshots up to 75 feet of a radius. And this is also then not only detecting and classifying that it's a gunshot, but also giving a direction. And all those technology components then together enable a quick response. And now the good things comes, since everything is camera-based, the operator can also rely on the high-quality video footage to visually verify. And also, since it's integrated into the camera, it's also connected to all the security systems that are already there. So it's not another silo. It's integrated with the video management system, and by that also with access control systems, and for example, also with our intrusion panel. So our camera can directly speak, for example, to a B65012 intrusion panel to lock a door, for example.
And to back up a bit, so what you're saying here is that actually the real pain point that people are actually concerned about, or what they're looking for as a solution, is that you say, I want to be as early as possible. So basically ahead of time. So you called it already predictive, you want to know what's happening. So that's where you're saying it's so crucial that we are combining visual with audio, because the visual will give you that, let's say, earlier response time.
Correct, and it's all about reaction time, because if you know ahead of time, you might be in a position to still lock the doors, to maybe already call the police, whereas in such a situation, you can imagine if the first shot goes off, like everybody is panicking, nobody knows where it came from, people are just running through the building, so then it's really a high stress situation, and we would just want to bring clarity in this situation, make people aware at a very early stage. And that's basically why we're also layering technologies to ensure that we also capture it if it's outside the field of view.
Okay. So I think then you want to show the real deal. So I think it's
correct.
It's time to let's say ask our rubber Dorit back to stage.
Correct.
Because oh, there she's already coming.
To switch to the live demonstration.
No threat here.
Yes, I don't know if it's already.
Yeah, we also there it is.
Yeah.
So you see now that the weapon is detected, and you also have another one. Maybe you can place it on the table. What you see, it's basically a gun-in-hand detection. So if it's not in the hand of a person, it will not pick up. And now we also have different kinds of firearms. So if they were brandished, you can see this bounding box, which is red around the object. So this is our visual gun detection, which will be introduced next month. And we also have something very special to announce later.
Exactly. We already said that.
Correct.
But what you're here seeing, so only a split, a couple of seconds, basically, that the software is automatically detecting that someone is carrying a weapon and brandishing a gun, or let's say rifle or whatever. The first level of defense. So yeah, we were already pretty confident that it would work, but here you see literally our latest analytics in action. We are still at the entry point in this case of our building, and we are slowly but gradually moving out to the outside, and the direct outside of a building is of course its building surroundings. And Niels, when we are anyway talking about analytics, etc., first of all, before I want to go to the surroundings, I want to, let's say, tackle one or two questions here. The first one, and maybe that's also something that we need to add to this follow-up email. This email becomes longer and longer by the minute.
Correct, but it's good.
Exactly.
People are interested in the product.
Absolutely, we're happy with the questions. Is there a list of objects that can be identified with a Bosch camera?
Absolutely. So our analytics, it depends obviously on which solution you use. So our IBA Pro Buildings is people and vehicles. And if you add a traffic license to the camera, then you can also have subclasses, for example, bicycles that are subclasses of the vehicles. Now we're adding the guns, and specifically at the perimeter, There might be people who are disguised, so you also need this kind of an unknown object detection because somebody might have an umbrella in front of him or something like that. So we that's maybe this unknown class, which we also kind of support, and that's more or less what we do today. But also stay tuned by basically selecting our cameras. You can also be sure we will add more functionality to it as time goes by.
But basically, Niels, to summarize, is that what you're saying with the buildings? We were talking about the FlexiDome 5100 and also other cameras that we have in the 5100 series. If they are featuring IVA Pro buildings, they detect persons or vehicles.
Correct.
And if you want to go further, there are also other licenses. And if you then buy such a license, there are more subclasses, etc. But I think that's maybe also interesting, something that we can put in our follow-up email so that you have more detail on that part. This is also an interesting one. It's not an interesting in the sense of you hope that it doesn't happen, but it's an interesting question. What about explosions? The sound of explosions, is that something that's an...
That's also a very good point. So basically, like the nature of an explosion, it's pretty loud. So we haven't fine-tuned our SoundC analytics or our intelligent audio analytics on this yet. But we are currently looking into things like that. But for the moment, we'll really just have gunshot T3 and T4. And maybe we would be able to also just make a trigger on a very loud noise. But it very much depends on which accuracy is required.
Exactly, a loud noise and a bomb. You have different responses to a loud noise or an explosion. I think this is also a good question here. If the visual weapon detection, so we call it official, the visual gun detector license, if it is available for the panoramic 5100, so someone catched the fact that we talked about the panoramic and the FlexiDome 5100. So Dorot, I think that's a question for you.
So our gun detection, our visual gun detection is available on the FlexiDome 5100i, also on our Dinian 7100i. Those are the cameras that support, as of now, the gun detection. The panoramic is the one doing the sound detection. So the gunshot detection, the audio detection.
So basically, if you are building a solution, like also Niels was saying, you typically would use a combination between the FlexiDome 5100 and the panoramic, where the panoramic does the second layer, the gunshot detection.
Correct.
And the FlexiDome 5100 is the first layer.
Correct.
I'm learning today something. That's
good.
Oh, now the interesting question comes in, and I have to ask the question to you were playing here the robber. So
I'm the bad guy.
I'm liking this person to be honest, but okay. How will you react to toy weapons? And I think we answered that question.
Yeah, we will detect them.
Yeah, because the toy weapons,
they look exactly like guns, and
correct.
Since
that's by nature of the technology. So we want to alert in that cases, and customer centricity is really also an integral part here. So we specifically also designed this for schools or in general the US education market. We actually spoke to various school districts in the US when designing this, so as a user research activity. And they also said, if there is a toy weapon, they also want to be alerted because there is a zero gun policy in most of the US schools. And you just want to be sure if there is somebody coming in with this orange tip at the front of a real gun, you want to make sure that you don't miss it anyway.
Exactly.
So this should never happen, right?
And at least I was informed about that, and hopefully I was not misinformed, but correct me if I'm wrong, you were using toy weapons just a minute ago.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I'm a
those
bad
were
guy,
detected.
but not that bad a guy,
Okay. So let's have a look at the building surroundings. Let's literally now go outside. And Niels, I think you can say something about it, what we call virtual zones or sensitive areas.
Correct, and I think you can already play the video that we can take a look at the same time. So I think what really is important about those analytics, it's like the first layer is the detection, and that's very accurate with our newest analytics because it's deep learning based. It will not pick up on falling leaves and so on. And now, as soon as you have detected an object, you can also combine that with different rules. So for example, what you see here, you can have a field and you can say if there, for example, is a vehicle in this field, you want to have an alarm. And this gives basically infinitely many opportunities for the person who's configuring the camera to set up something very specific. And what we see here is basically an alarm is given if there is a car parked in this area, because you might say nobody should be there throughout the course of the day because it's a loading ramp, and then you give an alarm. And now you see it has been detected, somebody from the security is coming, and the guy is, of course.
And basically, what you see now, the green rectangle shape, basically, but it was red a minute ago. That's what we call the virtual area, and it can basically be everything. It could also be, you know, something where you store your construction materials, where you don't want to put a fence around, or something like that, or not.
Correct, absolutely. And you also see in this image a counting line. So for example, you could also alert, it's at the beginning if someone is driving in, you can also set a directional filter if somebody's going in the wrong way. And this is really so you can secure your perimeter around the building even if there is no fence. You can have really a virtual zone here, which is quite cool.
I would maybe add something that was noticeable, and I don't think I mentioned that before. The static object detection, right? That also came out of AI detection. The fact that we're able to detect static objects and not only objects based on their movement, which was the case before with the earlier technology of our IVA and generally with video analytics, that gains infinite insights. You can count the number of cars in your parking lot. You can address whenever a car is standing there for too long a time and not lose touch with it because it's simply not moving anymore.
Correct.
So what you're actually saying, video analytics up to now, so basically before we introduced IVA Pro, was always depending on movement. So there needed to be movement before detection could happen. And now you're saying we don't need movement at all. We can also start to count stationary objects.
And that's customer selectable. So if you don't care about stationary objects, of course you can, you know, discard that and not be bothered with it. But if you are, then it's there.
You can already see it probably, at least I can see it, two smiling faces getting more and more enthusiastic. That was what I meant at the beginning, that there is so much to say about analytics because you already hear in the discussions that you can go in all kinds of directions with combining rules, etc. So that's also the reason why we are cutting down some of the content. But rest assured, we are also coming back in October with the live stream, which is also more going into detail on video analytics. So maybe you can already write that down in your calendar, 19th of October. I mean, that spoiler I'm already giving away, but that's the truth. There are so many combinations, I think, that we can make with our analytics, also depending on which cameras being used, because that's one of the next questions, and you know you can both answer if you want. The 7100, that's the question in this case. Is it also coming with the IVA Pro licenses? And
yeah, so maybe just as a rule, our 5100 cameras, they come with a IVA Pro buildings, pre-packed, pre-licensed, on board the camera. Our 7100 series, they also come with IVA Pro buildings pre-packed, but also with IVA Pro perimeter.
You are not going to spoil it now, so that we keep for later.
I slightly spoiled it because it's really around the corner, so I didn't spoil too much. Yeah. And then we also have IVA Pro traffic, but that is a story for a different breakfast session,
for a different session, yeah, exactly. Okay, let's go to a next use case, Niels. We are still, you already spoiled it a little bit. We were already talking about parking spaces.
Correct.
Let's go to the video directly.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, hold on, where is the video? I think we... detecting objects. So it was persons, it was classifying vehicles. We have also now watched this example. And the question is, but you just said it, do you need calibration for that? Because typically it was needed, so you need to calibrate in order to classify objects. In this case, you already saw objects being classified and no calibration needed. And I think that was exactly what was shown in this video.
Correct. So our IVA Pro buildings needs no calibration at all. Mount a camera, go away.
Yeah.
And what is also exciting, I don't want to talk too much about the traffic today, but also for our other package, the traffic, which also gives you speed and geolocation, we also have a new feature called auto calibration, which is also embedded into our project assistant.
Yeah.
And that basically automatically from all the vehicles moving through the scene estimates the height and everything of the camera. Patent pending technology from Bosch, also integrated, so we're significantly reducing the installation effort across the line.
Yeah. And that's a good point that you make, but that's indeed something for the next session or one of our next sessions, because I think what we have to correct here is that calibration at a certain point is needed depending on what is your use case. But for the standard use cases in and around buildings, you can rely on our IVA Pro buildings license, which doesn't require calibration for any of the use cases directly. But there are, of course, use cases that are more specific, and then you still need to calibrate because you need to tell the camera a certain perspective. But that is something that we automated. But let's go into that later on.
Correct.
When we are talking about classifications, what about bikes?
Yes, that's also something we can classify. However, this is then not part of the buildings pack, since buildings is people and vehicle, and all the subclasses, as well as a 3D tracking capability, that you really get all the speed information as well as geolocation. This is part of our traffic application. So you can detect bike, they will show up as vehicles. If you need the specific subclasses, you would go for the traffic license.
Yeah, you know, we opened the door to our audience because we said we go from the inside to the outside, and outside you typically find traffic, so we can't blame them that they ask these questions. But Dore, back to you, because we talked a lot about AI, but we also said AI and building security, it makes a big difference. But there are still some other things, because you said in the beginning, it's a one-size-fits-all, more or less. It's one solution, but there is a reason why you say one, because also the hardware is important, I believe.
Correct. Still, our bread and butter is being a camera, right? I mean, we're the smartest camera in the building, but still. The camera should still give the correct evidence. So whenever an incident does take place, we want to be able to use the camera footage as evidence, as forensic evidence. And that's why we offer Flexidome 5100i in 3 different resolutions, so 2, 5, and 4K Ultra HD. We bring, along with that resolution, dynamic range, which is terrific, and also electronic image stabilization to really have the best picture available whenever an incident does take place.
So basically different choices, different resolutions, so depending on how much resolution you need, also probably
how
distance.
Yeah, exactly.
But one solution or one family even, and different options to choose from.
Indeed.
And at night, what are we going to do there?
Yeah, exactly. So daytime is one thing, nighttime is a challenge on its own, and as you know, our Starlight cameras are very performant in daytime and in nighttime. So with this camera, we have our Starlight technology, but also intelligent IR up to 45 meters. This has to do with eliminating overexposures, with making sure the frame is evenly lit or illuminated even at 0 lux, and always having the right picture.
And you already saw how nicely the image cleans up, more or less, so between the 5000 series and the
so along the edges of the border and so on, this is really a neat illumination solution.
Literally again, more visibility.
Packed into the camera.
Thanks, Dorrit, for that. I'm also happy with all the questions that are coming in, but there are still some topics to cover, so we will go on.
Yeah.
Before we go into, let's say, more or less the final topic, so the parameter, as we already promised, a quick summary. So what we have been talking about until now, so basically inside and the surrounding of a building, we all did with what we would call the 5 Series. So, and I'm not referring to BMW because that would be, let's say, bad publicity in this case, but so the 5000 series, in this case more specifically the 5100. So all those use cases that you have seen is you can basically tackle with one camera family, but you have different choices that you can make. Also Dorrit pointed that out. But if you want to go the next mile, then the 7 becomes important, and that is something that you want to, let's say, go into now.
Correct, because the 5000, just to make sure, it has indoor and outdoor models, so it can definitely cover the surroundings of the building. But whenever we have a real perimeter challenge, so like big data centers, buildings that have a large area and therefore need to protect vast perimeters, then we would turn to our 7100 solutions with Dinian 7100i camera with IR and our brand new Autodome 7100i, which are both super performant. Dinian is our first camera with the X technology in 8 megapixels, so very high resolution and super high quality imaging. Both have the IVA Pro buildings, as we discussed for the 5100, but they also have IVA Pro perimeter, which is designed to safeguard really longer stretches of perimeter, but also be able to tackle that, what Neil said, this other object, right?
Yeah.
So the object which is not necessarily detected as a person because they are crawling or rolling, they're professional intruders sometimes, and we want to detect them. This is exactly where the IVA Pro perimeter comes in. Both, of course, have robust designs for outdoor installations, but also IK10 for withstanding any kind of challenges that are physical. They have a unique positioning system, but they also, again, as all of our cameras, have the cybersecurity features inside them.
Let's dive into it. Yeah.
So if we look outside the building into the perimeter, again, we're picking several use cases that can be indicative of all that we can achieve. So with IVA Pro perimeter, as I said already, we can really reliably and to long ranges detect intruders and create alarms over that. At the same time, the camera, while alarming, it can also give indication to our IP speaker to create or to sound a pre-recorded prompt, basically, to deter the intruder. So we can create a very powerful solution just based on those 2 edge devices. This is really based on the camera being super intelligent, so not only able to detect, but also able to create scripts inside the camera and direct the IP speaker as to which announcement should be sounded according to which event took place.
Another level of automation in that respect. The camera, let's say, interprets, the camera assesses the situation and basically then tells, in this case, the IP loudspeaker to sound a message.
Exactly, and most cases that is all that is needed to,
to
send
scare
them
off.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, what you're telling me, I needed to have that loudspeaker on the stage, so you would not with this scary tool.
You could have tried,
But you
could have tried.
You would have come on stage.
Yeah, I imagine so. Maybe important to mention that this, we have integration of that solution into several VMSs, including with our partners.
Then I believe you wanted to say something about tracking specifically.
Yeah. So maybe we can already play that.
Yeah.
We can add our Autodome 7100i camera to do several tasks. So if we have a perimeter covered by Dinian cameras, each overseeing their own segment, we can have our Autodome follow up with auto tracking. So if, let's say, a camera detects a car crossing a line where it should not be, then that can be fully tracked by our Autodome
and that's also
IVA Pro auto tracking, as we can see. It's being tracked despite occlusions, despite other cars being, or bicycles being kind of crossing the view. Again, keeping a smooth zoom and a sharp image, able to classify people and vehicles and really follow them until they basically leave the frame. This is a very strong option, so the Autodome can either do that, it can also do a guard tour and also gain insights, so detect, classify and count while it is moving itself. Even if you're overlooking a parking garage and want to count all the static objects there, you can do that with our Autodome. Those are really great capabilities. Again, we only had time for a few.
No, and time is at the essence at the moment, so we still have a couple of minutes left, and then we are already at the end of our live stream, so we are going to speed up a bit. I think as a sort of conclusion, you said it a couple of times, the data security. We also saw it at the beginning in the poll, that people care about that. Maybe a couple of words to this one.
Correct, because as much as we see AI and our IVA Pro as a really useful tool that customers would want to incorporate into their security systems, but sometimes also into their line of business applications, we have to make sure that the device they're putting into their network will not create any breach, will actually be able to act in a responsible way, networking-wise, cyber-wise. So this has been our, let's say, statement for years now. We have cameras that are secure by design. Our cameras all include a secure element, a physical hardware secure element acting as a TPM, a trusted platform model. And it handles all the certificates and the keys. It enables us to really safeguard the super important information coming out of the camera, and also defend the camera from malevolent people wanting to use it as an entryway into the customer's network. We've been saying that for a while, but thankfully we don't need to be the only ones saying that. We have certifications now that have become kind of standard in our industry, and we are happy to hold them. Whether it's the security maturity model from the IoT consortium, or the UL certification, or IC 62443, we are really on top of those certifications. They are giving us really good options to really perform better in that sense. So we're making our security better with each of those certifications, but it is also a way to really state, we are there. We see that as an important topic, and we deliver on that.
And then, of course, also our 5 years warranty.
And of course, our 5 years warranty.
I'm interrupting you a bit because time is ticking away.
Time. I completely understand that.
But you are saying it. Certification is simply showing that we are doing the right things on the security side of things.
Correct.
A quick summary, we told it at the beginning, how can we secure or basically elevate your safety security in and around buildings? That is something that we addressed because we talked about it's a simple choice between the right hardware, 5, 7, those are 2 magical numbers, the right analytics, that of course comes also with the hardware to enable proactive responses. We have shown no calibration, also easy installation, the 3-step installation also Niels talked about, which of course basically add to simplicity, and also reliable alerts. That's all about efficiency. And then Dorrit, you just, and sorry for that, I had to rush you a little bit, the certification, the built-in TPM, or basically secure element, and the 5 years warranty. Since we are already over time, and I must admit we have already some questions that we already tackled during the live stream. The other ones that we have on record, we will come back to that later on. So for now, I want to thank you for your attention and bearing with us for the last hour. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank my colleagues here for your input. Then I would say a big thank you here from Eindhoven, and see you next time, October 19th.